Hello, I am Zach Byrum, and this is my persuasive speech. Home runs, slam dunks, and touchdowns are all exciting. Sports are a way of life to many Americans. But unfortunately, athletes that participate in these sports are subject to abuse on far too many occasions. In this speech, I will address the problem of abuse in sports, whether it's emotional, physical, psychological, sexual, or verbal. Abuse comes in many shapes. Assault in sports is a problem, and it can have detrimental effects. Abuse comes in many different shapes, and according to the Army of Survivors, it comes in physical, which includes slapping, hitting, kicking, denial of fluids, excessive exercise, etc., emotional/psychological and verbal, which includes name-calling, insulting, shunning, belittling, etc. There is sexual assault, which includes sexual acts, sexual exploitation, rape, etc. And then there is neglect, which includes improper treatment of injuries, inadequate equipment, and not having basic needs. Joanna Puzzolo and Emily Pica state that psychological abuse is the most common, with rates of abuse ranging from 38 to 72%, followed by 9 and 30% for sexual abuse, and 11 to 21% for physical abuse. Leroy Michael H. from the book Law Journal Library states that some suits allege that coaches seriously injured or recklessly killed players with abusive practices. Others allege that coaches battered or raped their athletes. Some coaches have been accused of pressuring injured players to compete, while other coaches have been allegedly engaged in racial intimidation, sexual degradation, homophobic behavior, and bullying. And sexual assault can be one of the most tormenting forms of assault. Psychology Today states that sexual abuse is trauma that is both a physical act and a psychological experience. In the article Perceptions of Sexual Abuse in Sport, a qualitative study in the Portuguese sports community tells us that risk factors specific to sports setting included the physical contact involved in many modalities, as well as the close and trustful relationship established between coach and athlete. Now, that close and trustful relationship will be taken advantage of by many coaches that will use it to manipulate and then sexually assault their athletes. Abuse can lead to detrimental effects. For one, any form of physical abuse on an athlete will result in harm and damage to the body, such as bruising and potentially worse. STDs can be contracted from certain forms of sexual abuse, and psychological abuse can result in lower self-esteem, depression, anxiety, eating disorders, and self-harm, even suicide. Nicole Mendez is a two-time NCAA softball champion and an Olympian from Houston, and she states, "As athletes, you know you will never be perfect, but you will die trying to climb that hill to reach perfection." And this is sad, but true. Athletes will die trying to climb that hill to perfection. We lose far too many athletes to suicide. Athletes that couldn't take one more day. And an abusive environment is surely to make things worse. There are some solutions to abuse in sports. Congress has already addressed the issue, and an article by Lori Kohler explains how Congress passed the Protecting Young Victims from Sexual Abuse and Safe Sport Authorization Act that went effective February 14th of 2018. Background checks are a great way to prevent sexual and all sorts of other forms of abuse in their sport environments. Organizations need to review state liability for negligent hiring, protection of privacy rights of employees and volunteers, and laws preventing employment discrimination to come up with a reasonable background investigation. And make sure that coaches and all staff know the consequences of abusing their athletes. According to No HR Sports Risk Management, LLC, a strong display of enforcement against abusers may act as a deterrent to prevent future abuse. And for all of you listening, make sure to speak up. It can be hard for athletes to speak up. They will fear getting less playing time and being benched due to their pleas for help. If you notice something going on, say something. You can report abuse at Safe Sport using uscenterforsafesport.org. According to Psych Central, it's important that you be courageous and stand up to bullying behavior. To the extent that you sit by, complain in the background, but do nothing to prevent bullying behaviors, you're allowed to continue. Assault is without a doubt a problem in sports. Coaches and staff will hide behind an athlete's desire and drive to play a sport. They will take advantage of this knowing their athletes will not speak up. Remember, abuse comes in many shapes. If you see something, say something. Lives are on the line. Thank you.